The first time I swept the temple floor, I was just a young monk. I remember the morning well. The sun had not fully risen, and the air was still cool. I was handed a simple broom made of straw. It didn't feel special. It didn't look powerful, but it was the beginning of one of the most important lessons of my life. At first, I thought it was just a task, just something to do before breakfast. Sweep the leaves, remove the dust, and keep the temple clean. I moved quickly, trying to finish fast. I thought I was being efficient. But an older monk watched me. He smiled gently and said, "Slow down. You are not just cleaning the floor." I didn't understand his words, not at that moment, but I slowed my hands. I took my time. I began to notice the sound of the broom on the stones, the way the leaves curled as they moved, the little insects hiding under them. I began to see more than just dirt. The floor was the same every morning, but each time I swept it, I saw it differently. Sometimes it felt heavy with yesterday's rain. Other times, light and dry. What changed was not the floor. It was me. That first morning, I held the broom without knowing anything. I thought I was doing a simple job. But I was beginning a quiet practice that would shape how I see the world. I wasn't just sweeping a floor. I was meeting myself for the first time. No matter how carefully I swept the temple floor, the dirt always came back. Leaves would fall again. Dust would drift in from the wind. Footprints would appear after morning prayers. At first, this frustrated me. I wanted the floor to stay clean. I wanted to finish it once and for all. I used to ask myself, why do I do this every day if it never stays clean? I thought maybe I was doing something wrong, or maybe the task was pointless. But over time, I stopped asking that question. One morning, while sweeping, I saw a single leaf fall right after I had just finished. For a moment, I froze. Then I smiled. It was like the temple was teaching me something. The floor is never finished. The work is never complete, and that is not a problem. It is a truth. The dirt is not the enemy. It simply is. My job is not to remove it forever. My job is to return again and again and care for the floor as it is now, to meet it as it is today. In this way, the task is never boring. It changes with the weather, with the season, with my own mood. Some days I sweep quickly. Other days I take my time. But always I know the dirt will come back. And still, I sweep. This has taught me that some things in life are not meant to be completed. They are meant to be continued. Not because we must, but because we choose to return to them, like breathing, like living. At first, sweeping felt like something outside of me. It was a task I did with my hands, while my mind wandered. I would think about other things, what I needed to do later, what someone said yesterday, even what I wanted to eat. But slowly, something changed. My attention began to settle, not by force, but by habit. One morning, as I swept near the edge of the temple garden, I saw something I had never noticed before, a small crack between two stones. Inside the crack, a tiny green plant had begun to grow. I had passed that same spot many times, but that day I truly saw it. That was the beginning. I started noticing other things. A spider repairing its web in the corner, the soft lines of ash from the incense carried by the wind, the way old wood feels under a barefoot step. These were not big things, but they felt important, like they were waiting for someone to see them. Sweeping helped me see, not just with my eyes, but with my presence. When I paid attention to the floor, I was also paying attention to the moment. Noticing became a kind of quiet joy. It didn't shout. It whispered. It's easy to miss the world when we're moving too fast. But the world doesn't disappear. It simply waits. The crack in the stone, the leaf curled like a sleeping cat, the soft pattern of dust. These things taught me to look again. And looking again, I began to see more than the floor. I began to see how much I had been missing all along. There is a quiet rhythm in sweeping, one that is easy to miss if you are only focused on finishing. When I first began, I listened only to the sound of the broom brushing the floor. It was soft, steady, almost like a whisper. But over time, I began to notice something else: the silence between each stroke. At first, the silence felt empty, like a pause between actions. But as I listened more deeply, I realized it had weight. It was not just the absence of sound, it was its own kind of presence. It was the space where attention rested, where movement waited. I began to move more slowly, not out of laziness, but out of respect for that silence. With each stroke, there was a natural pause. Not planned, not forced. Just a small moment where the world seemed to breathe. The broom moved, stopped, then moved again, like waves on the shore. In that silence, I began to feel calm, not because I was trying to be calm, but because I had stopped chasing noise. The temple is already quiet, but this was a deeper quiet. It came from within me, and I found that the more I noticed it, the more it stayed with me, even after the broom was set down. Sweeping no longer felt like a job to complete. It became a place to return to, a place of quiet, not just around me, but inside me. And this quiet did not ask for anything. It only asked to be noticed. That is the gift of the silence between each stroke. It teaches not through words, but through stillness. And once you hear it, you realize it was always there, just waiting. Dust is light. It floats. It hides. It never fully leaves. No matter how many times I sweep, a little always remains. At first I tried to chase every speck. I wanted the floor to be perfect. I would lean close, sweep again and again, thinking, just a little more. But the dust never gave up. And over time neither did I. But I changed the way I swept. I stopped fighting the dust as if it were a problem. I began to work with it instead. I swept gently, slowly, with care. I understood that I could not control the wind or the way dust settles. All I could control was how I responded. The dust taught me patience, not by demanding it, but by waiting. It did not rush. It did not argue. It simply settled where it wanted to. And so I learned to meet it with calm hands and a calm heart. Some mornings, the dust was thick. Other days, almost none. But always, I approached it the same way, not to conquer it, but to care for the space, even if it would never be completely clean. That was enough. There is something humbling about this, knowing that effort is not always about results, that sometimes we do things not to finish them, but to grow through them. The dust reminded me that we are not here to master the world, but to live gently in it. And so I continue sweeping, not because I expect the dust to disappear forever, but because I've learned to be at peace with its return. The dust is not the enemy, it is the teacher, and its lesson is patience. When I was younger, I always wanted to finish quickly. I thought the goal was to get to the end. Sweep the floor, clean the space, move on to the next task. I believed that doing more in less time meant I was doing well. But something was missing. One morning, I was sweeping the back hall of the temple, an area few people ever visit. I moved fast, thinking no one would notice if I missed a spot. But as I turned to leave, I felt unsettled. Not because someone would see it, but because I had not truly been present. That was the moment I began to question why I was rushing. What was I hurrying toward? Another job. Another moment where I would rush again. I realized I was missing the value of the moment I was in because I was always trying to reach the next one. So I began to slow down, not in a lazy way, but with more care. I noticed how the broom felt in my hands, how the light fell across the floor, how my body moved with each step. I no longer measured my work by how quickly it was done, but by how deeply I had engaged with it. Now, I don't rush to finish. I let the task take the time it needs. Some days, I complete less, but I feel more fulfilled. I give my full attention to the work, even if it's simple, especially because it's simple. Rushing made me feel busy, but slowing down has made me feel alive. And I've learned that sometimes doing something with care is more important than doing it fast. Every day, I sweep the same paths. The stones do not change. The walls stay the same. The broom moves in the same pattern, back and forth. To many, this may sound boring, but I've found that repetition is not the same as emptiness. It can be a doorway. At first, I thought doing the same thing each day would become dull, but over time, I discovered something unexpected. In the repetition, I found stillness. Not the stillness of stopping, but the stillness that lives inside motion. When you do the same task again and again, you begin to notice things that others miss. How your feet press into the ground, how your breath moves with your hands, how a single leaf can land in a new way each morning. Nothing is truly the same, even when it looks that way. The world outside may be busy, loud, and always changing, but within the simple, repeated act of sweeping, there is a calm center, a steady place where thought slows down and presence becomes stronger. I have come to believe that repetition is not about doing less, it's about seeing more. The more I repeat, the more clearly I see. The floor becomes more than a floor. The action becomes more than a task. It becomes a space where I meet myself again and again. Stillness doesn't mean we stop moving. It means we are no longer pulled in every direction. And repetition, when done with awareness, can guide us there. So I return to the broom each morning, not out of habit, but out of respect, for the stillness it brings, and for the quiet truths it reveals. One morning, after many years of sweeping, I looked at the temple floor and saw more than stone. I saw myself. The floor did not change, but the way I saw it did. On days when I felt calm, the floor seemed smooth and gentle. On days when I was restless or worried, I noticed every crack, every bit of dirt. I realized that what I saw in the floor often came from what I carried inside. It was like a mirror, not one made of glass, but one made of routine, quiet, and time. The way I approached the sweeping told me about my own state. Was I being gentle or forceful, focused or distracted, patient or irritated? The floor showed me, without judgment. When I was younger, I tried to control the floor. I wanted it to look a certain way. But slowly, I came to see that control was not the goal. Awareness was, acceptance was. The floor didn't need to change as much as I did. Sometimes I would stop sweeping and just look, not at the dirt, but at how I was responding to it. That was the deeper work. Sweeping became a way to understand myself, my thoughts, my habits, even my hidden emotions. We often search for meaning in big things, but sometimes the smallest actions reflect the deepest parts of who we are. The temple floor became that for me. It taught me that how we do something is just as important as what we do, and that in even the simplest task, we can find a reflection of our heart. There's a corner in the temple behind a wooden screen, near a place where few visitors go. It's dark, quiet, and easy to forget. In my early years, I sometimes skipped it while sweeping. No one would notice, I thought. No one ever looked there. But one day, an older monk gently reminded me, "Even the places no one sees deserve your care." I didn't argue. I simply went back and swept that corner. At first, it felt unnecessary, but something shifted in me as I cleaned it. I began to realize that I wasn't doing it for others. I wasn't doing it for praise or recognition. I was doing it because it was there, because it was part of the same floor, because it mattered. There is a quiet beauty in caring for something that no one else will see. It becomes a kind of offering, not to people, but to the moment itself. An act done without expectation becomes an act of sincerity. Over time, that hidden corner became my favorite place to sweep. Not because it was special in appearance, but because it reminded me of the value of unseen effort. Much of what we do in life may go unnoticed. A kind word, a thoughtful pause, a small task done with care. But those things still shape the world. The corner is always waiting. Dust still gathers there. And I still return, not because someone is watching, but because I am. The beauty lies not in being seen, but in seeing deeply, even into the quiet places. There came a moment, after many years, many mornings, when I picked up the broom, and I no longer felt I was simply sweeping. The floor was the same, the broom had not changed, but something inside me had. What once felt like a chore had become a quiet space of care, a ritual without ceremony, a simple act that held more meaning than I had ever expected. I wasn't just clearing dust, I was returning to something steady, something grounding. Each movement was no longer just about cleaning, it was about honoring the day, the space, the chance to begin again. When we do something again and again with full presence, even something small can grow deep roots. The ordinary becomes rich. A floor becomes a teacher. A broom becomes a companion. A quiet corner becomes a reminder of who we truly are when no one is watching. Now, even if my knees ache or my back is tired, I still sweep. Not out of duty, but out of gratitude. For the practice, for the peace it brings, for the lessons it continues to offer. And to you, who have listened this far, I thank you deeply. Whether you've liked this video, subscribed to this channel, left a kind comment, supported with super thanks, or joined as a member, please know that your presence here means a great deal. It's not something I take for granted. Your time, your attention, your quiet listening, these are gifts. I'm truly grateful we could share this moment together.